I want to tell you a little bit about Shane, though. Okay, the movie.
Yeah, yeah.
I can't. I got it. I'm just telling you. My Christian men's group, they joke about it when we talk about issues, and I think I have the answer. They say, "Is it Shane? Is it Shane again?" I say, "Yeah, unfortunately it is." But I'm a real George Stevens fan,
Okay.
the director who did Shane.
Mhm.
Okay, and he was sort of he was a man for about 10 years, and Shane's along with High Noon. They came out about the same time. If you're a Cowboy Hollywood person, you would know that set the tone of every single Western since then. Those two movies together, okay? There are other great ones, but Shane really is, I believe, a Christian allegory. And I've looked at this very carefully, and it's comprehensive. And so...
I think that's probably right. The self-consciousness of the man who shot Liberty Valance meant that it didn't have a lot of successors. It's very self-consciously, we're telling the myth of the West as myth.
Right.
And the kind of sadness of the truth underneath the myth.
Yes.
High Noon has some of that too. There's a self-consciousness about High Noon. So I'd be willing to hear this argument about Shane. I will say, in terms of Western books, right, that Shane is a genre book, right? And it's very influential in the genre. This is who's writing in those days. Max Brand, Luke Short, these Western genre writers who are going to kind of culminate in Louis L'Amour. But when True Grit comes out in 64, I think. This is a period of high literary writers doing Westerns. So we get Little Big Man, we get True Grit. There's a genre thing going on here. Ron Hansen, the Catholic, started as one of those high-lit Western writers. He did Desperados and The Coward Who Shot Jesse, or the Robert Ford, The Coward Who Shot Jesse, who assassinated Jesse James. And which was made into a nice movie with Brad Pitt. But I will say, True Grit actually changes everything. No, I mean, I do. I think it's a great book and an okay movie. But just in terms of a book, it changes everything because it creates a literary language for the characters to speak. And that kind of strangely formal, self-conscious, biblical phrasing that every Western movie now has. That all comes from True Grit. He creates.
How would you
that
fit
language.
Clint Eastwood into that?
Oh, he got that.
Did he master that eventually, or
he
was doing it before, wasn't he?
Not that language thing.
No.
The self. If you even think about the John Wayne version of True Grit.
Gotcha.
It's still driven by these characters' self-consciousness about the way they talk. In which he says, if I could not find the bad guy's name, Maddie says, if I could not find him with the mark of Cain upon his face in 3 years, then I am not qualified to speak to you about how it is that he may be found. And that formalism of language and that all comes from True Grit, from the book. And it's hugely influential.
It's definitely in historical accounts of the West. And where I'm going with this is, there were two books that got me ensconced in this. And the Monroes that I'm from is, we basically founded Austin for the settlers in the 1830s. And they're still around down there. So I have a lot of this wanting to know more about the West, even though I'm a Virginian. But what got me into the genre just in the last 2 or 3 years is Empire of the Summer Moon, about the Comanches, and Blood and Thunder, which is about Kit Carson and the Navajo. And that's gotten me into just a whole realm of Tom Glavine. And
you've read Death Comes for the Archbishop, right?
No.
Oh.
No, I'm not real well.
So that's
I've just
Willa
gotten
Cather's novel.
Okay.
About the Archbishop of Santa Fe.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
But Kit Carson appears in that book as the complete man.
Yes.
He's
he is the super
well-formed
stud.
man. He's moral, he's competent. She uses him as sort of, the way Hamlet calls Horatio his complete man.
Yes.
Right? The Archbishop of Santa Fe, who's this Frenchman who just shows up and has to carve a diocese out of the wilderness. But she uses Kit Carson in that way.
He's an absolute superstar. And the one thing I want to throw out at you while I have it is being a Western guy like you are, how people that aren't from the West, they see all these cowboy movies, especially people, boomers, where it was so big, and they think, oh, that's so exaggerated. My point is, no, it's not exaggerated at all. It was actually far more dangerous, far worse, far more everything.
What we don't know is the actual language that these people use, which is why True Grit in 64 is so influential, because it creates a plausible diction for these people.
Think about it. If it's true that in Deadwood, South Dakota, or
it's just up the road from
or Dodge City, you really did, and it often happened like every other week, somebody gets shot in a saloon. You're going to be very careful about how you pick your language with people while you're sober.
My daughter always
sober, right?
My daughter always loved that line of was more of a libertarian than I was. She always loved that line of the libertarian science fiction Robert Heinlein, right? Mm-hmm. Where he said, "An armed society is a polite society."
Yes, it is.
Right?
It is.
But
so
you
true.
would what takes those Western stories out of the penny dreadfuls and moves them into genre fiction is Zane Grey's Riders of the Purple Sage in 1906 and Owen Whistler's The Virginian in 1912. And The Virginian is exactly that story, right? Of the Southerner who goes west, the Southerner who had been an officer in the defeated Confederate Army goes west.
Exactly.
Right, and he is polite, and he is well-mannered, and he thinks of himself as
Josie
an aristocrat.
Wales, the movie.
Yeah. Although he's lower class, he's a farmer. Whereas the Virginian is
an aristocrat in some fashion.
The Confederate captain.
Yes.
Who's now lost. His life has lost meaning, but he wanders through as the hybrid existential hero.
Yes.
Through the West.
Yes, and it is true that the Civil War came along, sucked all those men into the army, and then the Indians had a fun time, and then they all came back, and they were changed people.
One of the things just as I hold forth on Western literature, at this point in life, I realized I've read damn near everything. Want to talk about Western? Sure.
Well, this I cannot. I mean, you're obviously an extremely literary person. I'm not that. If it's history, American history generally, Revolution, Civil War, I am an expert. I was a founder of the Civil War Center in Richmond.
Okay.
Only because as a businessman I was known to know so much. It's been a passion of mine since I went to Carolina. Had a great professor there and so on. But so I'm new to the West other than Shane, and I see a biblical allegory there, and it is.
Yeah. Okay.
So
well,
we would need.
I
can send you an essay on that. No.